Call the meeting to order.
Sean Lucas,
Present.
Justin Orff,
Here.
Jared Giddens,
Here.
Aaron Peterson,
Here.
Darlene Graham.
Here.
Amy Hookstrat.
Here.
Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. We will open up the visitor section. Do you have any visitors tonight, Cindy?
Yes, sir. This evening we have Ron Sanders.
Mr. Sanders.
Good evening. My name's Ron Sanders. I live at 976 Glen Oaks Drive. It's kind of significant that every person that gets to speak up here comes up here and gives their name and address right up front. That way everybody here and everybody streaming and everybody watching knows who we are and where we live and the fact that we are, in fact, citizens here. It can also be a very cooling effect. People knowing where you live when you publicly speak, knowing what you have to say may be controversial, knowing what you say may be unpopular or unaccepted. It has a very chilling effect whenever people on this council decide to belittle or make other comments on public media that may belittle or otherwise put down the person's reason for being here or the person's reasoning for conducting business here with the city council. It's a chilling effect because the next person that comes up to this microphone might think twice about what they may want to say to the city council or air their grievances and then go home and bitch about it to all their friends and neighbors, but never get anything done because they don't want to come up here to the podium. They don't want to speak their name and their address and put themselves out here to be ridiculed, to be, to be spoken in a way that their point was meaningless or that their point was unwelcome. That's not what anybody in a public office should be doing. It's not what anybody who has a podium of their own should be doing. Because most people may not have the intestinal fortitude to come up here and air their grievance or bring their concerns to the city council, thinking that they may walk away and be dealt with harshly in the public eye. And that's something that everybody should be aware of. That's something that everybody here in the city should be concerned about. Because it is a chilling effect. It has that chilling effect. Through this process that I've been engaged in, I have been met, just like the mayor has been met, with a lot of nastiness. I can handle it. I've seen that the mayor can handle it. But there are some lines that shouldn't be crossed. And everybody should consider those lines before they open their mouth or before they put their fingers on a keyboard. Because changing the city charter so that 100% or 50% is required instead of 10% would just tell the people that you don't want to hear what they have to say. You would be telling the people that no matter what the city council does, there's no recourse because we have just raised your threshold to an unattainable level. And I will mention that during this process, there were people who were afeared of putting their name and their address on a petition. They had legitimate fears of backlash. I don't know where that came from, and I'm not going to make any accusations where that came from. Those people who showed those concerns and those people who withdrew their names from the petition because of those concerns know who they are and know their reasons. And to me, that was enough to know that some people's behavior in this city was unacceptable. People with power, people with real power, and some people with illegitimate power are trying to intimidate people, are trying to control people. And that's not freedom. That is not letting people be free. And neither is people with their microphone to be speaking down or speaking out of line against citizens who may have a grievance. And it should not be accepted. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sanders.
Mr. Sanders, I'd like to respond to you. I think most people in this room know that you were speaking to me. I stand behind the post that I made. In no way did I belittle you or vilify you. I shared my opinion, which I have every right to do just as much as you, even though I'm an elected official. You're going to get your recall election. You followed procedure. You got the signatures. So I'm not stopping that from happening. No one can stop that from happening now. And we'll see how the vote comes out. I also stand by my point that I do believe that the Home Rule Charter needs to be changed to change that requirement. And I think that most people in this town would probably agree with me. There are 16,105 registered voters in Nixa. It should take more than 67 signatures to initiate an expensive recall election. A recall should happen when an elected official has done something heinous enough to make enough people in the community feel like that official needs to be recalled, that if the requirement is raised to a more sensible level, it should be no problem to get that number of signatures if it's really justified. Thank you, that's all.
Thank you, Ms. Sustrap. I do think the point is valid about the address. I don't think we need people to, if they fill out the card, we don't need them to state their address, do we? That is probably more personal information that needs to be provided. If they just say their name, if they have the card and they say their name and their city, then you should be able to get that back for purposes of the record, which is the only reason we ask for it.
Yeah, we've
anyway.
always just included it in the minutes.
But you'll have it on the card. Or do they don't put their address on the card?
They do put the address on the card.
Okay, yeah, so you have that, and there's no reason to broadcast it, I don't think.
Okay.
I'd like to add one more thing, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I just want to add also that, it is in no way an abuse of my power to suggest that the Home Rule Charter should be changed. That's my opinion. I can't change it. City Council can't change it. City Council can vote to put a measure on the ballot to change it, and then the public would have to vote in favor of that. So the public would have the final say. So if we do bring that to the ballot, then we'll see what the public wants.
Next visitor, Cindy.
The next visitor we have signed up tonight is Jimmy Ledbetter Jr.
Mr. Ledbetter.
My name is Jimmy Ledbetter. I live at 3468 Woodley Park Place in Oviedo, Florida, 32765. I'm a senior data manager for a local software company. I'm a college instructor in the School of Informatics. I carry a master's in data science with an emphasis in human-centered design. And one of my favorite titles I have is I'm a former mayor pro tem for the city of Nixa, Missouri. Good evening, Mayor and Council. As several of you know, because I sat next to most of you, I live in Oviedo, Florida. But I had an interesting conversation with a coworker of mine in Noida, India. She called me up and she said, "Aren't you from Nixa?" I said, "Yeah, how'd you know?" She said, "I hate to inform you, but your mayor is being recalled." I was floored. So, my favorite saying is from a movie, A Few Good Men. It doesn't matter what I believe, it only matters what I can prove. So, being a data scientist, I went into research mode. Here are the facts, and they are not disputed. Mayor Steele was provided emergency powers on the 23rd of March, 2020. The City Council of Nixa, Missouri voted down a mask mandate on 20th of July, 2020. As the pandemic worsened and cases and deaths in Christian County went up, at the request of state and local medical officials, local leaders, and citizens, Mayor Steele enacted a mask mandate. And the most important part of this all, at any time, the city council could have voted that down. At any time. We were still learning how to live in a COVID-based society. Zoom calls were not the norm. Information was changing by the hour. We needed to make serious calls, and we needed to make them fast. Now, I'm glad that on this recall, some of those committee members survived COVID. My uncle did not. Nixa Santa Claus did not. The recall is going to cost citizenship upwards of tens of thousands of dollars when the mayor did nothing illegal nor immoral. I would also like to state, and I sat up there with several of you, that if this council thought that the city of Nixa was in jeopardy in any way, shape, or form, I trust you all enough that you would have voted that down immediately. We had the same thing going on in Oviedo, Florida, Orlando, Florida. We made the papers too. But we would have never thought to recall our mayor. Good job to the mayor and council. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ledbetter. Anyone else, Cindy?
I have no one else signed up at this time.
If anyone else would like to speak, you can do so at this time. Oh, gentleman here.
He's going to be speaking at a later time this evening.
Okay. If anyone else would like to speak, you can do so at this time. All right, we'll close the public hearing, or close the visitor section.
I'm going to make a motion that we postpone Council Bill 2021-068 to the next regularly scheduled council meeting.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we'll move on to the first reading. Bill number 2021-072.
First reading, Council Bill Number 2021-072, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa amending Chapter 117, Article 7, Section 117-277 of the Nixa City Code to modify the residential side yard requirements.
Good evening. As you'll recall, at the May 24th meeting of this year, the City Council adopted a number of amendments to the city zoning code concerning dimensional regulations, among those some changes to the residential side yard setbacks. At the second reading of that ordinance, I presented to the council this slide and then gave an oral presentation that I think led everyone to believe that by adopting Amendment 2, you would accomplish everything that staff was recommending and everything that I believe the council intended to accomplish, which was to change the side yard setback from 5 feet to 7 feet for any new preliminary plats from this point forward, and allow the prior approved preliminary plats, as long as they remain valid, to stay with the old 5 feet, so long as they meet the adopted building code requirements. But again, as a result of the presentation I gave, council adopted Amendment Number 2, but what Amendment Number 1 was actually a prerequisite to Amendment Number 2. Amendment Number 1 was not adopted, I believe, as a result of the confusion I created. So what we've done is we've brought another bill back to council, this time through P&Z as well, and had a public hearing there. P&Z recommended the correction. I believe it was council's intention the whole time to make this adjustment. And what this bill does is essentially change the 5 to a 7 so that the whole thing works as I think was originally intended.
Any questions? That's much louder. Yeah. I agree. I believe that was our intention.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. All right. Thank you very much. We will open up public hearing. If you would like to speak to this item, you can do so at this time. And we will close the public hearing. Move on to our second reading section, Bill 2021-067.
Second reading, amended Council Bill Number 2021-067, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa accepting the bid of Blevins Asphalt Construction Company for the Tracker Road and Old Castle Road Roundabout Improvement Project and authorizing the city administrator to execute a contract for same.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. For your consideration this evening is an ordinance to authorize the city administrator to enter into a contract with Blevins Construction for the purposes of an intersection improvement at Old Castle and Tracker Road. This would provide for an realignment of the or not a realignment of the intersection, sorry, an upgrade of the intersection to include a roundabout at this location. Up on the screen, we've provided a piece of the construction plans that were submitted. That includes the site plan showing the improvements that will be made to the intersection if this ordinance is passed. Blevins Construction did submit a bid for the project in the amount of $200,000. The budgeted amount for this project was $225,000, so they have submitted a bid that is within the budgeted item for this project. I would be happy to answer any questions you have regarding the proposed improvements.
Any questions?
This is something that the people that live in that area had asked us to do, is that right?
Yes, and it was also part of the strategic planning process where we looked at traffic calming techniques for the community. There are a few areas within the community that we identified that would be a good fit for a roundabout situation. This was one of them, to provide some traffic calming and also to allow for the proper movement of traffic through the area.
Okay, thank you.
This is going to be a fully sized construction, right? It'll be
Yes,
like the one at Wasson Place, not like the one at...
Correct.
yeah.
Unlike the one at Northview and Gregg, we did have adequate right-of-way to put a full-size roundabout, so it'll have a much larger center, as well as the diversionary lanes needed to fully accommodate a complete roundabout. Up on the screen, you'll notice the elimination of some curb and softening of the radiuses, as well as a larger center island, including a truck apron and a landscaped center.
Very good. Any other questions? Thank you, Travis.
All right.
We will open up the public hearing. If anyone would like to speak to this item, you can do so at this time.
Mayor and council, we have Mr. Robert Dunn that has signed up to speak.
Mr. Dunn.
Good evening. My name's Robert Dunn. I live at 812 East Kingsmead Circle. That is located approximately halfway between your proposed roundabout and Highway CC. Being a resident of that area, I don't see a need for a roundabout. We travel that road every day. The problem we foresee is the traffic at CC. The high traffic areas in the morning and in the evening, it's a dangerous intersection. Somebody's going to get killed there. As the experience we have by traveling this area all the time on Tracker Road in Old Castle, people come up, stop, make a right, make a left, go straight across. There's never congestion or anything like there is on Highway CC. Personally, further on down the road, the city put in I'll call it a speed deterrent.
A chicane.
A
is the
chicane.
technical term, I believe.
Okay, my personal opinion, that was a waste of money. It doesn't slow anybody down. I can go straight through that thing without slowing down. I just think the roundabout's a waste of money. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Travis, are there currently any plans by the state? Because the CC intersection is a state intersection, correct, Travis? CC and Old Castle, right? Yeah, CC and Old Castle.
Yes. The Old Castle and CC intersection is an intersection with MoDOT. They do have scoping projects identified for the whole CC corridor from Main Street to Highway 65. There are no improvements identified at this time. It is on their their STIP as a priority project, but it is currently an unfunded project. So I know they do have scoping planned in the near future. Now, scoping just identifies the need and the future alignment of it. The next step after scoping for MoDOT would be to identify a funding and a year in which that project would be funded.
Thank you, Travis.
All right.
Travis, I have a question.
Yes.
Would it be fair to say that, that part of the reason for the roundabout at Tracker and Old Castle would be in anticipation of much greater traffic, given all the new home construction in that area?
Sure, obviously, Old Castle was constructed prior to the subdivisions, identifying the need for a collector status street to serve as a neighborhood collector for the entire northeast region. That's why its purpose was identified. No driveways were allowed on it. It is designed to accommodate much more traffic than it currently has. It is designed to accommodate the traffic at full build-out of northeast Nixa. So yes, it would be fair to say that it has a design capacity that can accommodate future growth in the area.
And then, since the gentleman brought up the chicane, I have a question about that as well. I live right around the corner from that chicane, and I agree with him. I'd say I have to slow down a little bit to get through it, but not much at all. And I wish that I don't know the terms, but that the portions of the chicane did protrude more to make more of a curvature. Am I correct in assuming that it was made to protrude as much as it possibly could, given the constraints of the road width or other variables?
Yes, very much. Those chicanes were a retrofit to an existing roadway. Typically, if chicanes are designed as part of a road project, the entire road lane would shift, not having islands to shift traffic. The reasoning behind having to design them the way we did, we had to leave enough width for Mr. Rozell's snowplows to get through, and also for large traffic such as bus traffic and
Fire trucks.
large truck, yes, fire trucks, trash trucks, all those still have to be able to maneuver through it. So we necked it down as much as we could to get as much traffic calming effect possible without deterring or eliminating the ability for certain vehicles to drive through it.
Okay, thank you.
And I will add that, because that's right where, for my kids to go to the pool, they have to cross at kind of Old Castle and Downshire. And so that's pretty close to that chicane. Actually, he sat there and watched the cars go through it one day. And that was a huge concern to me because at the rate people were coming through there, I know the first study, the speeds were extremely high. I mean, terrible, to the point where even with 40 yards notice, if a kid popped out, they wouldn't be able to stop. And there is a report, and I believe some stuff's going to be done with it to clean it up and make it a little bit easier to read, but it has slowed people down considerably, which is good. And you can go straight through it, but not at 70 miles an hour. And you'd be amazed. They were going every bit of that. And because it was kind of the Old Castle drag strip for a while. And I mean, I've been passed on it before and they were going so fast, couldn't even see the license plate number.
Yeah, well, and I'd like to think that it just its existence has a psychological
Yeah.
calming effect as well, hopefully.
Yeah, I assume that you and Mr. Dunn both probably don't drive nearly as fast as some of those people that were on that initial
Yeah.
speed study going
Yeah, if
60
you're
miles
going
an
the
hour.
speed
through there.
limit,
Of course
If you're
not.
going the
You
speed
don't
limit,
have
it's
to
not going to
move.
slow you down. That's true. Yeah.
And I have a feeling also traffic's going to get a lot worse at Old Castle and Tracker when Tracker does open up all the way, because my parents live in Eagle Ridge and I live in Wicklow, so I have to go across CC there at Old Castle and CC, and it's a nightmare. And people are going to end up going all the way down Tracker to Cheyenne to hit that light there because it's a lot safer. And so
Yes,
we're
it
going to notice a lot more traffic picking up. And it is, throughout the day, it's not too bad at Old Castle and Tracker, but I mean, I've been 8-10 cars back before going to work and coming home. And so eventually, that would be a lot faster. If going to work, I don't care. It can take as long as possible. But coming home, I'd like to get home faster, and skirting through a roundabout's a lot easier than having to stop. And half the people don't stop there anyway, so.
And I do agree with Mr. Dunn that something is going to have to be done at Old Castle and CC
Yeah.
at some point, especially, it can take forever to try to turn left onto CC. Yeah.
Without a doubt, we could not agree more. The entire CC corridor is in need of adjustment. And MoDOT has identified it as a priority project. At this time, it's just unfunded. Now, when it moves up on that list will be during their priority sessions that they have every year.
Thank you, Travis.
All right?
Oh, we will leave the public hearing open. If someone else would like to speak.
Good evening. My name is Barry Woosley. I live at 905 East Clare Court in Nixa. And on the map up there, my lot is 49, so my backyard is right there at that intersection. So not to diminish the CC interchange. I know that's pretty bad. I do think the roundabout will help here, because I can sit on my back porch, and I've seen a lot of vehicles just go straight past. I mean, they don't even slow down. The ones that do, they think the STOP stands for squeal tires and pavement, so. So I think it will help in that fact that, you know, they won't be able to go straight across. They'll feel a bump if they try to. So I think that'll be good. This is not, my request is not part of the scope of this project, I'm sure. But since we're talking about speed, when people do leave there and they turn west on Tracker, it's kind of going downhill and it's a windy road, and some people really like that, and they just open up a lot. So I don't know if there's something that can be done in the future, you know, or to think about looking at this in some way. It would be very helpful. There's school buses that stop there, let out and pick up and let off kids. So it is a very dangerous intersection. Again, I think it'll help. There is a lot of, so that's the first thing, just to study the traffic and see if there's any way to slow it down. I don't know if, what you call it, chicane, I don't know if that would be the answer, but, there's a lot of heavy trucks that come through there, and a lot of them like to use their engine brakes. So I don't know if there's an ordinance against engine brakes.
I know we've discussed jack brake before, but I don't remember
Yeah.
what we did.
And
It's been a few years. I'll have to research that.
yeah.
Major
We do,
tennis.
we definitely discussed a
Okay.
ordinance against jack brake, but I don't remember what the final result of that was.
And again, I didn't know if maybe, you know, beyond the scope of this, maybe
Jake.
some,
Not jack, Jake.
maybe a sign or something might help. I
Shows
don't
you how
know.
well I know.
So, anyway, just a lot of trucks that go through there. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Woodley. I think mine's more appropriate
Right.
for the people doing it, right? Yeah, okay.
I'd like to speak about the roundabout one more time.
Sure, same.
Listen to what everybody else had to say. My name's Ron Sanders. I live at 976 Glen Oaks Drive, like I said before. Got to see a lot of road in my whole lifetime. And as far as the Jake brakes go, Jake brakes are safety devices for trucks so that they don't burn up their brakes, so they don't overheat their brakes. Don't necessarily say that they would have to, you know, use them on a city street doing 30 or 40 miles an hour, but, you know, just keep that in mind. I think we're dealing with a courtesy thing, a consideration of other things, just as much as we are an engineering feat of putting a traffic circle in that will definitely slow people down and make people think twice about doing 70 on a side road. There's two ways that you could really get the public's attention. And one would be a public campaign with some advertising, you know, say, hey, be courteous to others. You know, while you're driving down the road, maybe someone waiting to turn out on the road would have a chance if you weren't doing 50 and a 25. You know, you could do something like that. Or you could go the other route, which the police chief probably won't like me saying, and that is to start dishing out the tickets. Because when people get tickets and they have to go over here in front of the judge for something that actually matters, maybe it will change their perception. Maybe it will make them think twice, especially if it has to do with being considerate of others and not the police being mean. You know, hey guys, you're driving stupid. You're not even thinking about anybody else while you're out here on the road. And, you know, as we get older, we start thinking like this, and I've really thought about this over the past 10, 15 years. You have to. The speed limit's not just there to make you miserable and make you slow to get to work or slow to get home from work. The speed limit is there so that other people coming from side streets can get on the road so that they can get to where they're going. The speed limits are there so that the traffic flow is kind of more controlled so that when you do turn off the road, you don't cause more accidents. A lot of people don't think that way. They just think that speed limits are there and everything else is here to give them a ticket so that the city can make money or something like that. if money is not the motive, then the policing would be the right motive and take those people and change their minds. I can honestly tell you that very few people will go over 35 miles an hour through the center of town on 14. And that's because the police hit it hard. That's because there's one area in Nixa that everybody knows the police will catch you and they will give you a ticket. And that's on 14, right here between 160 and the other side of town where it turns back into 45. If we did that on these streets once in a while, that would spread out. That would become a little bit more consistent instead of everybody speeding everywhere except downtown on 14. That's just my suggestion. I do think that we could make a larger difference if we did have more policing and maybe a little bit of public awareness rather than engineering. I mean, the engineering needs it also. But you have to be careful about just using engineering. I was coming home on 160 today, and there were people in the left-hand turn lane on 160 just when you get past, down there where the new come and go is. And this blue pickup truck riding right next to a brown pickup truck, when the lane ended, he just moved right over. He knew that that guy was right next to him, and he moved over anyways because he knew that he had to get out of his way, and almost caused a 3 or 4 car wreck. And I was like right behind him watching the whole thing. And it was about the most ignorant thing that I've seen in the past few weeks. And it was somebody my age. It wasn't a kid. It wasn't an old grandpa, 80, 90 years old that forgot. This was a guy that was trying to beat the rest of the traffic and cut somebody off. And it was ignorant. And that kind of stuff needs to be squashed. And that's what's going on this street. People are speeding down that street because nobody will pay attention to it. Just like 90% of the streets in Springfield, you could do 50 everywhere in Springfield, never get caught because they don't have enough police to do it. But I think we might be able to make a little bit of a difference if we had a little more policing. Sorry, Chief, but it's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sanders. We'll leave the public hearing open if anyone else would like to speak to this. All right, we will close the public hearing. Any further discussion?
I mean, I'll just say from an engineering standpoint, roundabouts are about 20% safer than a standard four-way stop, and because it eliminates a lot of conflict points where you can get hit. A roundabout only really has 4 places you can get hit, and it's where you're entering it. And most of the cars are going to be angled, so you're not going to have those right-angle crashes. They're going to be deflected because right-angle crashes cause the most injuries. So roundabouts are awesome. I don't know. They really help. They're super safe as long as you slow down and do what you're supposed to do.
I think probably the biggest problem with roundabouts is people who don't know how to use them. And so if we're adding this roundabout, and if we're ever going to add more roundabouts, it definitely wouldn't hurt to do a little public education campaign.
Mm-hmm.
And that might go a long way.
That's a good idea. Yeah, we all know how to do the diverging diamond now. Didn't take too long to figure that out. And now they have them everywhere else as well. So. Any other discussion? Motion to approve?
So made.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Justin Orff,
Yes.
Jared Giddens,
Yes.
Aaron Peterson,
Yes.
Darlene Graham,
Yes.
Amy Hookstrat,
Yes.
Sean Lucas.
Yes. And move on to the resolution section, Resolution 2021-071.
Resolution number 2021-071, a resolution of the Council of the City of Nixa authorizing the issuance of a beautification facade grant for proposed improvements at 102 South Jean Street.
Good evening. The City of Nixa has a beautification facade grant program which advises the Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council to consider facade improvement proposals for this grant money on the following basis: on the amount of impact that is believed that the proposal will have on city beautification, the amount of private investment that is leveraged in effort to gain the public investment through the grant, the feasibility of the cost and schedule of the proposal, the durability of the improvement that will be made, and the community contribution of the applicant themselves. Jeremy Pinniger, on behalf of Nixa Hardware, has applied to receive a facade grant application, which would award as much as $350 towards a approximately $700 mural that will be painted on the side of the building located at 102 South Jean Street, which is located here. The yellow line is the side of the building on which the proposed mural would be painted. This is an image on eastbound Mount Vernon Street, which is also Route 14 here in Nixa. The side of the building that would contain the mural is right here next to the Shayla's Boutique sign.
Shayla's isn't even there anymore.
This shows a closer-up image of the building where the mural will be painted, and here's the depiction of what it would look like following, obviously the owl being the mural. So, Planning and Zoning Commission held a public hearing on this proposal and voted unanimously to recommend its approval.
Is that the actual, what the mural is going to be based off of? Is that classic ad, or is it something else?
No, that's it, yes, sir.
They're not gonna paint the rest of the side of the building?
They did, the applicant stated at the P&Z public hearing that they would paint the rest of the building, but the mural would be contained to just that one
Okay.
portion that's shown there.
Nice owl, yeah.
I'm
My first thought when I was concerned, we don't want to paint advertising. We're not paying for people's advertising, but that is definitely not something that is a current ad or even a current product that exists, right? So,
I don't know.
My understanding is it is a current product, but in staff's evaluation, we're not looking at the content so much as, we had the same question, is this an advertisement that qualifies for the grant program, assuming that maybe advertising wouldn't, but when you start to evaluate these things on the basis of what it is in terms of content, you start to get into some First Amendment questions. And so staff strived in its evaluation to stay away from questions about what it says or what it depicts, but instead focus on, is this an improvement that's needed to the building? So my question then at that point became not whether it's an advertisement, but does the side of this building need painted? And as you can see here,
that is definitely true.
it does.
Yes.
So this was
Well, yeah,
staff's
yeah,
evaluation.
My concern is that if they came to us with a Nixa Hardware ad, a logo for Nixa Hardware to place there, should the city be paying for
No.
an improvement to their building to advertise their business?
And then if they lose their partnership with Common Sense Seeds, are they gonna wanna do another one
Sustainable
with the new
Seeds.
seed company?
Yes, and Mayor, it's a valid question, and it's one that Mr. Garrett said what staff did discuss quite intensively, because it is a concern, but currently, the application and the guidelines does not prohibit it, so that's why we're bringing it to council tonight.
I just Googled Common Sense Seeds and I didn't find anything.
I can't find anything
I
either.
don't think that's a current brand. I
No.
think that is a classic ad.
Yeah.
Just from the look of it, I don't believe, I didn't ask Mr. Pinniger about it, but
The applicant did
believe it
state
is.
this was based on, I think, a classic version
Classic
of the
version,
ad.
okay.
Yeah.
that I think is acceptable for that's a seed warehouse, and it should have a big picture of a bird selling seed. But just not the current, not Nixa Hardware seed.
Yeah.
Branded seed. But yeah, maybe that is, I always believed that was part of the criteria, because when they did the other mural, we told them they could have Nixa Hardware like this big. It says at the bottom, this was sponsored by Nixa Hardware, but we didn't pay for that one, though.
Yeah.
Correct,
And so I think, yeah, maybe we should have some discussion.
absolutely. We
About-
can readdress that and look at the
You know,
guidelines again.
Yeah, if it's, advertising for a current business or the business that's proposing it, that I don't think that's probably something we should be funding.
I did find in a quick Google search on Nixa Hardware's website, they do sell a brand called Common Sense Alfalfa Seeds.
Okay.
Yep, I just found that too.
Yeah, it is a brand, but they currently don't use that logo.
Okay,
That's an old logo.
that makes sense. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We will open up the public hearing. If you would like to speak to the common sense seeds question. We will close the public hearing. Motion, or any further discussion? Motion to approve?
So made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. And that is all we had on the agenda for this evening. It's like record short meeting recently. Anything else from staff?
Mayor and council, if you have just a second. I was out of the office last week, so I wanted to give you a brief update on the recall petition. After the recall petition was turned into the city clerk's office on June 28th, we logged it in, and I sent the petition signatures over to Christian County Clerk Kay Brown. Kay and her staff went through the signatures, and they verified that 73 of the 97 signatures were valid, registered inside city voters. The recall petition committee, they were required to obtain 67 signatures. Therefore, this week, I will be sending out a letter, as required by Section 10-4 of the Home Rule Charter, to the Petitioners Committee certifying the petition. With all that being said, I will also be bringing an ordinance for first reading to the next council meeting, which will be calling for a special election on November 2nd, 2021, with a question for recalling the mayor.
Thank you very much.
Any questions?
Any questions?
Okay.
No? Thank you very much. Anything else from staff?
Mayor, council, I would like to introduce our new utility billing supervisor. Brian, would you please stand? This is Brian Hawk. He comes to us from the City of Republic, where he was the utility billing supervisor there, so we're very happy to have him. He's got some good experience and has taken over, and in short order has kind of learned the ropes and has got stuff going really great over there. So
Well, we will
we're
pray
very happy
for
to
you.
have him.
It's a tough job. Anything else? Anything from council?
Just thank you to the police and everyone else, all the crews that were out after the storm, cleaning everything up. I ran into Will at about 10:30. He had just moved a gigantic tree off of North Street. And I stopped and talked to him for a minute, and I was like, "You guys about done?" And he pointed over behind the junior high, and there was stuff down everywhere. I'm like, "All right then." So thanks to all those guys that did everything to get the power back on and clean up the city.
Anything else? Motion to adjourn.
So made.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much.